In the cradle of civilization, nestled between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, lay the fertile land of Sumer, a place where myth, magic, and profound knowledge interwove to form the foundations of our world. The Sumerians, often dismissed by modern history as just another early culture, left behind a legacy that speaks not only of agriculture and writing, but of the cosmos, multi-dimensional beings, and a structured universe far beyond their supposed means. Their clay tablets, etched meticulously in cuneiform script, speak of planets unknown to their age, celestial calculations still accurate today, and an origin story not of Earth but from the stars. They claimed that knowledge was not invented but given. By whom? Beings they called the Anunnaki. These weren't just gods in the mythological sense. The Sumerians described them with uncanny specificity. Sky beings descending in flying chariots, manipulating life and governing cycles of time and energy. They were said to have taught humanity law, science, writing, and astronomy. But why? According to the Enuma Elish and other recovered texts, the Sumerians believed that Earth was part of a divine experiment, and that the Anunnaki were both creators and caretakers, beings from Nibiru, a mysterious planet that returns to our solar system on a 3,600-year orbit. Modern science scoffs at Nibiru. But how did the Sumerians describe Uranus and Neptune, planets invisible to the naked eye, thousands of years before telescopes? How did they calculate the precession of the equinoxes with such astonishing precision? Why did their ziggurats align with the stars so perfectly that modern astronomers still marvel at them? They understood something fundamental about the structure of the universe. Not just its physical form, but its energetic blueprint. They believed that the universe was built on sacred geometry, vibrating frequencies, and a multi-dimensional structure of reality. They saw the heavens not just as stars, but as portals, and they viewed time as cyclical, not linear. A spiraling journey of souls through ages guided by cosmic forces. In their understanding, the human being was not merely flesh, but a vessel for divine consciousness. The soul's origin was not Earth. It descended through planetary spheres, each imprinting upon it energy, karma, and purpose, before finally incarnating into the material plane. This is not just ancient mysticism. It's a worldview that matches what quantum physics and string theory are only beginning to glimpse. That consciousness shapes reality, that dimensions overlap, and that the universe may be more like a thought than a machine. And at the heart of it all is a question we must ask. What if the Sumerians didn't imagine these truths? What if they remembered them? The Sumerians did not view humanity as separate from the cosmos. To them, the soul was not confined to a body, but woven into a vast network of celestial influence. Every star had a frequency, every planet a personality. The skies were not inert. They were alive, speaking in pulses of light and rhythm. They created detailed star maps, lunar calendars, and ephemerides that rival those of later Babylonian and even modern observatories. But this knowledge wasn't abstract. It was initiatory. The sky was a library and the priests were its readers. Each individual's life was believed to be imprinted by the position of the planets at their birth, not for prediction, but for remembrance. Astrology for the Sumerians was not fortune-telling. It was a mirror. It revealed your alignment, your path, your frequency. They spoke of the me, a term difficult to translate but which meant divine principles, encoded laws of existence. These me were not only stored in the heavens, but could be downloaded through ritual, sound, and sacred alignment. In this way, humans could access cosmic intelligence, not by conquering it, but by attuning to it. Their rituals were not superstition. They were technology, energetic technology. Chanting was used to vibrate the body into resonance with divine fields. Temple architecture mirrored the structure of the heavens. Water was seen as a transmitter of memory, Crystals were used for storage and amplification. Incense was more than fragrance. It was an offering to frequency. And the deeper you look, the clearer it becomes. The Sumerians did not invent these practices. They inherited them. From whom? Some say earlier civilizations lost to time. Others say higher dimensional beings who seeded humanity across ages. Either way, the Sumerians knew they were not the beginning. They were the receivers of a cosmic transmission, one now reactivating in our time. Modern physicists now describe the universe as a hologram. That space is not empty but vibrating with potential. That reality is constructed by observation and everything is entangled. But 6,000 years ago, the Sumerians already spoke of the divine pattern beneath all things. They believed the universe was spoken into being by divine frequency. That vibration precedes form. The gods did not just live in the sky. They were the sky. They were the mathematics, the magnetism, the resonance. In that understanding, the Sumerians aligned every part of their civilization to the heavens. Crops were planted not just with seasons, but with star phases. Children were named based on lunar significance. Kingship was believed to descend from the stars, not just metaphorically, but as a beam of spiritual governance. They even described the afterlife in terms not of punishment or reward, but of frequency. The soul moved through layers. Some could ascend quickly. Others remained in lower vibratory states. But all were part of a cycle. And that cycle was sacred. These are not primitive beliefs. They are universal memories, traces of an intelligence far older than history, etched in the DNA of your soul. And now, in this era of accelerating change, they rise again. Because you are not watching this by chance. The same frequency that once moved through the temples of Ur and Eridu is moving through you now. You are the continuation. You are the remembering. And what the Sumerians once recorded in clay, your soul already knows. In one of the most enigmatic myths of Sumer, a divine object is mentioned, the Tablet of Destinies. This was not merely a symbol of power. It was believed to be a cosmic artifact, encoded with the laws of reality itself. Whoever possessed it could command the elements, rewrite fate, and shift the structure of the universe. This tablet was not made of stone or gold. It was energetic, a blueprint, vibrating with the patterns of divine intelligence. In modern language, we might call it the source code. The Sumerians believed that reality was spoken into existence, not metaphorically, literally. Sound, frequency, tone. These were the creative tools of the gods. The act of naming something was to give it life. To speak a word was to shape the field around it. This understanding is mirrored in other traditions. The OM of the Vedas, the Logos of the Greeks, the word of Genesis, all point to the same hidden truth. Vibration is the engine of creation. The Sumerian priests used this knowledge with care. Their rituals were choreographed acts of resonance. They used chanting, geometry, color, movement, and intention as instruments in a sacred orchestra. Each temple was designed with mathematical precision. Sacred ratios governed every wall, every altar, every stairway. These proportions weren't aesthetic. They were harmonic. The temple itself was a tuning fork, vibrating in harmony with specific planetary bodies and dimensional fields. Walk through it, and your body would recalibrate. Stand in the center, and you could access inner stillness, the same stillness from which the universe first emerged. This was the true function of the priesthood, not to mediate power, but to maintain coherence with the divine pattern, to protect the resonance, to pass on the codes. But what happened to that knowledge? It faded, fragmented, misinterpreted, yet it never vanished. It flowed underground into the mystery schools of Egypt, into the teachings of Pythagoras, into Kabbalah, Hermeticism, alchemy. And now, It reawakens in quantum physics, vibrational medicine, sacred geometry, and consciousness science. The patterns the Sumerians encoded in clay, spirals, triangles, celestial arcs, are not merely decorative. They are maps, portals, gateways between mind and matter, symbols that bypass the intellect and speak directly to the soul. Why do some symbols make you feel something you can't explain? Because your soul recognizes them. Because you've seen them before, not in this lifetime, but in temples of light, in dreams you forgot, in frequencies your body still remembers. This is the hidden thread that runs through all great esoteric systems. Reality is a mirror of geometry. Everything, your thoughts, your emotions, your body, follows patterns of sacred proportion. To align with those patterns is to return to harmony. This is why the ancients were obsessed with the heavens. Not because they were primitive, but because they knew the sky was a reflection of the inner cosmos. The planets were not just rocks. They were archetypes. The stars were not distant. They were doorways. And the universe was not dead space. It was alive, intelligent, and listening. You are not a passive observer in this story. You are a participant, a creator, a frequency walking in human form. The knowledge of the Sumerians is not ancient. It is eternal. It lives inside your DNA, waiting to be remembered. You feel it when you stand beneath the night sky. You feel it when you hear music that makes your soul tremble. You feel it when you close your eyes and fall into silence, and something vast begins to open. That is the tablet of destinies calling you, not from a museum, but from your own being. In the deeper layers of Sumerian cosmology lies the story of Nibiru, the planet of the crossing. Scholars have long debated its meaning. Was it a real celestial body? A mythological metaphor? A code for something else? To the Sumerians, Nibiru was not just an orbiting object. It was a threshold, a gate between dimensions. It appeared only at specific cosmic alignments, when the vibrational field of Earth matched certain higher harmonics. And when it did, the veils between worlds grew thin. Some modern interpreters have tried to place Nibiru into physical astronomy. A rogue planet, a brown dwarf, a long-lost member of our solar system. But the ancient text suggests something more subtle and more profound. Nibiru was not a place. It was a state, a point of crossing, between matter and spirit, between density and light. When Nibiru aligned with Earth, the Sumerians believed portals opened. Not just in the sky, but within us. The gates of remembrance. The access points to past lives, soul missions, divine memory. They taught that the soul did not originate on Earth. It descended through vibrational spheres, planetary layers, each imprinting upon it archetypes, energies, contracts. In this cosmology, every soul has a stellar origin, not as fantasy but as vibrational truth. Some carried the resonance of Sirius, others of Orion, others still from the Pleiades or beyond. Earth was the meeting point, the classroom, the testing ground, and Nibiru was the bridge back home. At the time of alignment, initiates would gather in temples, not to worship, but to activate. Using sacred tones, sacred breath, sacred posture, they would recreate the internal geometry needed to receive the transmission. For those who were ready, the crossing could happen in dream, trance, or even death. A complete remembrance, a full resynchronization with their cosmic essence. The priests guarded this knowledge carefully, not out of secrecy, but out of respect for frequency. You cannot force awakening. You must vibrate into it. They believed that when humanity forgot the stars, we would forget ourselves. And so they encoded the maps, in myth, in math, in architecture, not to be studied, but to be felt. Today, the name Nibiru stirs controversy, but the deeper meaning is timeless. Every human life moves in cycles of forgetting and remembering. Every soul descends, experiences density, and seeks its way home. And each of us carries our own Nibiru, the hidden crossing, waiting to be activated when we are ready to reclaim the totality of who we are. The Sumerians viewed the human being not as a limited organism, but as a layered entity. The body was a vessel, the mind, an interface. But the soul was eternal. It did not begin at birth nor end at death. It moved in rhythms like the stars it came from. They believed the soul descended through what they called the gates of heaven, planetary spheres, each ruled by a divine archetype. Each gate imbued the soul with certain traits, certain memories, certain lessons. Venus gave beauty and longing. Mars gave drive and struggle. Saturn gave limits and wisdom. These were not just planets, but initiatory temples the soul passed through before reaching Earth. This descent was called the Great Fall, not as punishment but as purpose. A descent into matter, into density, into forgetting. Why? Because only by forgetting can we truly choose to remember. And the goal of life, according to the Sumerian esoteric tradition, was not survival. It was return. Not a physical return, but a vibrational one. A return to alignment with source frequency. A return to clarity, to resonance, to wholeness. This is why the Sumerians placed so much emphasis on ritual, not as religion, but as technology. Rituals were maps, breath patterns, sound codes, geometric placements. They weren't just for the gods. They were for the soul's orientation. One such ritual was the opening of the mouth, a ceremony where sound was used to awaken the energy centers of the body. The idea was simple. When the soul forgets, the body becomes dense. But when sacred frequency moves through it, memory returns. The mouth opens, and the divine voice speaks again. Their burial practices reflected this cosmology. The dead were not entombed, but guided. Priests spoke star names over the body, aligning it with its origin constellation. Crystals were placed near the skull to amplify vibrational recall. Oils were applied to preserve energy flow. Incense was burned to thin the veils. Every death was seen not as an end, but as a transition back to light, and every life as a mission to bring a specific note into the human symphony. This belief in soul cycles is echoed in nearly every ancient mystical system. But the Sumerians may have been among the first to encode it so clearly, so structurally, into their myths, their temples, their number systems, even their art. They saw the universe as a great harmonic order. Each soul, a note in the chord. Each life, a verse in the song. And the journey was not toward perfection, but toward harmony. To become again what we always were, but this time, consciously. The Sumerians did not see time as we do. To them, it was not a straight line from past to future. It was a wheel, a spiral, a song with repeating patterns where each note echoed across dimensions. They understood the movement of stars and planets as more than mechanics. They saw time itself as alive, a conscious force with intention, rhythm, and memory. This is why they divided history into great ages, long periods of thousands of years, each ruled by specific constellations and cosmic energies. These were not just symbolic, they were energetic fields, vibrational conditions that shaped human consciousness. The Sumerians recorded that we once lived in a golden age, an era of alignment, where humans walked with the gods, heard the voice of the stars, and lived in harmony with Earth. But over time, this harmony was lost, not through sin, but through density. As cycles turned, humanity descended into separation. The soul began to forget its origins. Language fractured. Time became linear. The temples grew silent. But they also knew this was not the end. The descent was part of the pattern, And so too would come the return, a new age, a new alignment. They prophesied that after long darkness there would come a moment when the veil would thin again, when the ancient codes would be reactivated, when humanity would once more remember its place among the stars. They didn't give a date. They gave signs. When the skies grow chaotic, when people speak much but listen little, when time feels faster and dreams grow stronger, when children are born remembering things they were never taught. They said, when you begin to seek silence in the noise, you are hearing the first echo of the return. And now, across the planet, we are seeing it. A rising tide of remembrance, a reawakening of old truths in new forms, a reconnection of human and cosmos. It is not coincidence that sacred geometry, vibrational medicine, ancient astrology, and the wisdom of the stars are all returning now. The spiral has turned. The gate is opening, and this is what the Sumerians preserved. Not just data, not just myth, a roadmap, not to control the future, but to align with it. You are not just a witness to this turning, you are a part of it, the soul that chose to be here now, at the crossing, at the remembering, at the dawn of a new song. And the ancient ones, the Anunnaki, the sky teachers, the wisdom keepers, are not returning from above, they are returning through us, through our choices, our presence, our frequency. So now as you hear these words and feel something stir within you, understand. It is not new information you are receiving. It is ancient memory being reawakened. You are not here to observe history. You are here to live it again consciously. To walk as a soul that knows. To speak as one who remembers. To act as one who carries the codes of forgotten stars. The Sumerians are not gone. Their knowledge flows in your dreams. Their symbols echo in your intuition. Their temples rise again, not in stone, but in stillness. Not in deserts, but in your heart. They left the sky maps not for archaeologists, but for you. They left the songs not for scholars, but for your soul. You are the stargate. You are the crossing. You are the tablet of destinies, rewritten with every breath. And so the question remains, will you remember? Will you stand still long enough for the ancient frequency to find you? Will you honor the silence between the stars, where the truth was never lost, only waiting? Because the secrets of the Sumerians were never truly hidden. They were simply encoded in you. Now the gate opens, now the spiral turns, now it begins again.